Sorry, YouTube. I'm just trying to get my Instagram live going. There we go. Okay. Always takes a minute because I've got YouTube and Instagram. And I can't figure out how to start them at the same time. I'm not that coordinated. Hello. Welcome. While we're waiting, I'd love to know where you're from and how old your kids are. So I'm just curious. You don't have to tell me, but if you want to, I'd love to hear. So I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. My kids are 34 and she'll be 29 in about a week, couple of weeks. Okay, I got a kid on here. That happens. Do your parents know you're on here? Okay, Tucson, Arizona. Welcome. So I'm just asking people where you're from and how old your kids are. Colorado, 1, 9, and 12. That's a nice big split. Then you got babysitters for the little one, eh? 4 and 6, Lithuania. You've been here. Are you from TikTok? Like, I don't know how many people are also on TikTok. Germany, 30 months. I'm quite new on Instagram. Oh, I just hit 100,000 today. And I've really only been on here for about 3 or 4 months. So I'm just absolutely blown away by that. So thanks so much for your support. I don't really understand social media, but I know that's considered a good number. So very happy about that. Okay, Germany, 30 months. Welcome. Columbus, boy 2 and girl 3. Nice. 5, 3, and 1. Sydney, Australia, 18 months and 1 on the way. You were here yesterday or last night, weren't you? Or a couple days ago. South Carolina, 1 boy, 2 years. Sweden, and 10 and 9. SC, is that South Carolina? 8, 6, 3, and 1. Is it Virginia that drives me nuts? There's West Virginia and then there's just Virginia. There's no East Virginia. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's Virginia. Is that right? Have I got that right? I don't know why that really gets on my nerves. You've got a West Virginia, you should have an East Virginia. I'm very organized with stuff, so that kind of stuff, I don't know why, it just gets on my nerves. San Diego, California, 2 girls, 10 and 5, and 1 boy who just turned 1. Oh, okay. Nice split in ages. I've got 5. I didn't plan it that way, but I had 5 years between my 2. And it was really nice because my son started grade 1 and then I had a newborn. So it was like I could just focus on each kid. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. I'll do my best to answer. And I want to point out something that happened yesterday, which is just great. Where I must have written it down somewhere. Did I? I must have. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll bring it up in a second. Anyway, yeah, I don't bring people in on my lives. I only ever did it once. I did it on TikTok, and I didn't know what I was doing. You know, you really should, talk to people before you allow that. But they just came on and started talking about their business. They just wanted my audience. Like, I got a big audience on TikTok, and they just wanted my audience to push their business. So I got rid of them really quick. So that's why I'm very wary of that. I don't just invite people in and or let people come in. South Africa, 3 years and newborn. Okay, so let's get. Actually, something happened yesterday, and I want to point this out. My daughter actually listened to the live yesterday, and she was laughing. She knows me, and I love this stuff. So someone had said to me, my 3-year-old doesn't respect me, doesn't listen. And I said, well, that's just your leadership skills. You got to work on that. Once you're a leader, everything, they listen to you, right? So then this same mom, she wrote back, and then she goes, so you're saying it's my fault? I love that. Yeah, I am. Yeah, 100%. Your kid's behavior is a direct result of your parenting. It is your fault. You can also take the credit when they're great. I took the credit too. Like, I take the blame and the credit. So that's what a leader does. A leader doesn't blame the kids. A leader's blame. If your kids are acting out, say, what am I doing wrong here? So yeah, I'm sure that person will never turn up ever again. I'm quite okay with that. But it was a real wonderful opportunity. I'm going to do a video on that because that's what leadership is. You take full accountability for how your kids act. That's a leader. Yeah. But anyway, that's very defensive. And then I went on about it. But anyway. Okay. No, I don't have any advice with this. My 16-month-old has to get glasses. Any tips on how to keep them on him? No, he'll just get used to it. He's so little, it's going to be really difficult. But I would just look up forums where and look that question up, like somewhere like Quora, Quora, when you ask specific questions and then you hopefully get answers for that. I would assume that 16-month-old depends on how bad their eyesight is. Generally, they start to connect the dots and they go, oh, I can see. Now I can't. I can see. So yeah, it's going to be tough. It's just an adjustment period. And toddlers are going to do what they're going to do. That's, when I say that your children's behaviors are 100% a direct result of your parenting, that's from the age of 3 to 12. It's not under the age of 3. Their toddlers are just crazy. They're going to do what they're going to do. Having a hard time getting my husband to be consistent with the corrective actions. The only way around that is if you hire me, and then I talk to both of you and I explain it all. And but yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't teach adult to adult relationships. It comes up a lot in coaching though. I know I'm not a therapist or a counselor, but a lot of my clients would argue with that. You're actually a marriage counselor too, but anyway, that only comes up in coaching. Okay, found your page a few weeks ago. Amazing advice. Excellent. I haven't been on Instagram that long, and I hit 100,000 today. I was very happy with that. I really don't know a lot about social media as a whole. But anyway, yeah, I hit 100,000. I was just very excited about that. I think that's a good number on Instagram. I don't really know. But yeah, I think that's a good number. Don't know what I'm talking about. I don't understand social media. Probably never will. I just don't get it. Okay. I need the age, by the way. Someone just asked a question. I need the age. And I don't let people in on my lives because I've only ever done it once on TikTok. And it was someone who I have a big audience on TikTok and they wanted my audience and they were pushing their business. I got rid of that so fast. Okay. Congratulations. I'm a grandma and I'm living the tips. Excellent. I'm going to be a grandmother in, about 5 weeks. So yeah, it'll be fun. Little girl. Don't know her name yet. They're withholding that. So I keep saying, oh, how's little Lisa Jr. doing? My name's Lisa. And they laugh. Okay, my 16-month-old has been quite chill before going to daycare. Now she has started to resist almost everything. Eating, changing, diaper, putting on clothes. Could have happened anyway. I think what's happening is at home, you get into a routine and you're probably in a lot of ways catering to your little one, whereas daycare doesn't have time for that. They're just like changing you now. You know what I mean? Like it's not one-on-one like it is at home. So your little one is just sort of resisting that and it just takes time. It's a transition time. I took all your advice on Instagram and so far they all work. Great. And I'm not the only one. I mean, my way isn't the only way. I'm not stupid. I know what I'm doing and I know my method works, but I'm sure there's other ones out there too. If I don't resonate with you, don't waste your time arguing with me on here. If you just hate what I'm saying, move over, find someone that resonates with you. Because if you don't like what you're hearing, you're not going to do it anyway. And I'm here to get you solution. I'm solution based. I want to get you results. I want you to enjoy parenting as much as I did. It was the most fun I ever had. It was the most fun time my whole life was parenting. It was a riot. I got all that pesky discipline and respect cemented when they were tiny, and then I sailed right through the teen years. Okay. Yeah, any tips on how to get my 15-month-old used to daycare? Yeah, it's just a transition time. You ask the daycare workers, they'll tell you that. Very few kids just go in and it's all sunshine and roses. It's a transition time. You just have, it's like a lot of parenting. And I come up against this a lot. Everyone wants to avoid the negativity, the scenes, the tantrums, the fits, the transition time. That's part of it. That life's messy. Parenting's messy. It's just part of it. You can't be afraid of those things. Transitions are difficult. Change is difficult. So, it's just part of parenting. You just have to go through the rough stuff, right? You talk a lot about toddlers. Oh, I know. That's what people ask me. I specialize in teenagers, by the way. That's my specialty. That's how I started my business, is teen crisis work. So, yeah, you talk a lot about toddlers because that's what people ask me. But any idea on how to get a 9 and 12-year-old to play together? Girl 9 has big boundaries and boy 12 has none. She just doesn't trust him. She's very sent. Well, let's assume they're siblings. Okay, I'm going to assume they're siblings. This is what I did with my kids. They were a big age difference, 5 years apart. Boy was older, and I just did this organically. I thought the only way to get them to be buddies is to do stuff with, like, as a group. But three of us did a lot together. I didn't do a lot of one-on-one stuff. Everything we did together, and it was always silly stuff. You play to the weakest hand. You play to the youngest one, or the one who's the worst at something. It was usually me. And then they bonded over laughing at how silly I was. We did a lot of crazy stuff. So yeah, we did stuff together, and then they bond through laughing at you. That's what my kids did. That was their bond, laughing at their crazy mother. I was nuts. I was crazy. So yeah, and I'm game for anything. So I'm one of those moms who's going down the slide and ends up going upside down and backwards on her stomach because she got all twisted around at the theme park. So yeah, that's how they bonded. And also, when you're playing games with your kids, don't make it anything competitive. So try and make it like fun games, like Pictionary, that kind of stuff. It's all fun. Think about it that way. It's just bonding. It's how to bond. And yeah. No, I won't go into it. In coaching, I talk a lot about what I used to do with my kids. Some of it's too crazy. I get to know my coaching clients. I relax a lot with them, but around you, I'm still trying to be sort of on my best behavior. But I did a lot of crazy stuff with my kids, and they bonded over laughing at mother. So. And by the way, the more time they spend together, the more they'll get to understand each other's boundaries or lack of. Okay, it's all part of it. And you're probably busy trying to talk about it. That's not what happens. You got to do it. A lot of people try to talk about big feelings, big emotions. This is how you should get along with your brother or your sister. Kind of, what's the point in that? You actually teach them how to do it by doing it. You do stuff together. Okay. How can I get my 8 and 6-year-old to hear me, listen to me first time instead of the fifth? Well, I don't repeat myself. I ask for something once. If it's not done, I take action. So yeah. Check out my boot camp course. That goes into all this stuff, like why I don't repeat myself. I just never would. Well, I set kids up for success. Like, I would never ask. My son loved PlayStation games. He still does. He's 34 and he still loves gaming. But he just loved that. I would never have asked him to put his laundry away or do something like that right in the middle of a game. I would think that would actually be kind of mean. I would say something like this: hey, when there's a break in, when you're finished that game, put it down and go do that. And then he would have done it. He would have known that if he didn't, I would have turned it off. So they knew that I knew how to take care of business. They knew that I would take action. So, but yeah, I would never repeat myself. But I set them up for success. I ask them, I'm very respectful of what they're doing too. Okay. Thanks so much for all your advice on Instagram. Has been so very helpful. We'll also be purchasing your trainings online too. Thank you. I just want to mention again, I'm very grateful for you being here. I hit 100,000 subscribers or followers, I don't know what it's called, on Instagram today. And I've only really been on here for about 3 or 4 months. So, and TikTok is where I really, I've been on there for almost 2 years now. And, but yeah, so I'm very grateful for that. I don't really know what I'm doing on here, but anyway, so obviously it's going well, but I don't really know what I'm doing. It's all a big mystery to me. I didn't grow up with, I'm 63 years old. I didn't grow up with all this stuff. It's still so confusing to me. My 3-year-old started throwing himself on the floor for no reason. Yeah, okay. When we go to get his 9-year-old from school, there's the reason. How can I get him to hold my hand? Well, for one thing, okay, he's throwing himself on the floor because you have to go. He doesn't want to go, get the 9-year-old. And it's just become a routine, I'm assuming. How can I get him to hold my hand? Now, I don't quite understand that. There's two very different questions there. I'll just go with the first one. He throws himself on the floor. So pick him up and cart him up. But give him some warning. Say in 5 minutes, we're going to be leaving to go pick up your brother or sister, whatever. So give him 5 minutes warning, and then say, okay, 2 more minutes, and then 1 minute. That's not countdown. You know, I hate countdown because he's not doing anything bad. Countdown is when they're doing something bad and you say, I'm going to count, and you better stop. That's awful. But anyway, this isn't countdown. This is giving them a warning. Say we're going to be leaving, giving them a heads up, right? And then he throws himself on the floor. Don't say anything. Just pick him up or grab his hand and drag him out. That's what I would do. I take action. I only say something once. How can I get my 3-year-old to listen the first time? I just went through that. Check out my boot camp course. It goes through how to set yourself up as a leader. Children listen to leaders. Like my kids never ignored me. Why would they? Like they just wouldn't have. Like because they knew that I was a leader. I don't know how else to put it. It's such a big umbrella. I can't sum it up in one statement. Other than to say leaders bring out the best in kids. You bring out the best in them. They make really good choices. So that's your goal. It's not to have obedient little soldiers. It's to have children who have high self-esteem, lots of pride in themselves, and they make good choices. You bring out the best in them. And you're the source of that so that they want to please you. That's how this all works. Once you're a leader, everything falls into place. It's just a piece of cake. Getting to be a leader is the hard part. Getting respect is hard work. You gotta earn. I work for it. You gotta earn that. People used to say to me, people who didn't know me used to say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You got the easiest kids I've ever seen." People who knew me or people who understood parenting and kids, they'd say, "Yeah, she worked for that." Like I earned it. I worked for it. You got to earn it. Is there any link between hearing loss and behavioral issues? 8-year-old daughter wears hearing aids since 2.5. I can't answer that because I've known kids who did have hearing issues and they were very well behaved, and other kids who didn't have hearing issues and aren't well behaved. So I just can't answer that. I know personally what I think, but I can't answer that because you're kind of going into the medical field there, and that is not my lane at all. I stay out of that. So yeah. But I know what I think personally. Just to confirm, before they're 3, it's more about me keeping my cool because the hard work starts at 3. No, the hard work starts at, I'd say, about 16 months. That's when you're doing the consistent corrective actions. And you're just setting yourself up as a leader. One of the best ways to get leadership skills in place, toy rotation system. You bond with them by playing in their world. You don't go to the nail salon with a 2-year-old to bond with them. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. So you enter their world to bond with them. So when you're disciplining, it's consistent corrective actions. And but yeah, you're already in it, but they're not on board yet. But they are. The reason I know that they start to pick up on this stuff is the difference between my husband and myself. The kids from a very little age, when I said something, they knew it was going to happen. Whereas with Dad, they were more likely to ignore him. Whereas they didn't ignore me from a really little age, like I'd say almost 1. They just knew the difference. When Mom said your diaper is going to be changed, it's going to be changed. Whereas with Dad, he might have said, "Okay, how about we read a book first?" Or, he was the pleaser, I was the leader. So yeah, it starts very young. Okay, I'm just looking at YouTube now. I'm in Florida. My daughter's 4 years old. Welcome. 3 years old who tests every single thing we mother and father say to him. Feels like everything is an argument. What should we do? Okay. If you're a leader when they're little, under the age of 3, by the time they hit 3, they get easy. If you're not a leader and you're more trying to please them, you're trying to avoid a scene and always trying to give them what they want. By the time they hit 3, this is almost what they do. They go, "You're not a leader. I think I will be." They sort of stop and think. They reason through it and they go, "Yeah, I think I'm in charge here." So that's what happens. That's when the poop hits the fan, is at 3. If you've been a pleaser, trying to, discuss all their big feelings and big emotions, trying to hug out tantrums, trying to please them and not instead of leading them, 3, everything hits the fan at the age of 3. They stop and think, "Wait a minute, I know who's in charge, and that's me." So that's exactly the attitude he has. Yeah, that's from Brianna. Check out my boot camp course. It teaches you how to set yourself up as a leader in 5 weeks. I wish you were still in Australia. You're the best. Well, I am still in Australia because I'm talking to you. I'll tell you, it's kind of an off topic, but how important my mother was to me. She was my inspiration in life. I lost my dad from cancer when I was 14. Very close to my dad, and I was very close to my mother. And I was adopted, so they were older and they had a lot of patience. They never yelled or anything. They were just lovely. But anyway, I moved to Australia, got married to an Australian, moved there. I was there for about 20 years. My mom was in her 80s. She was becoming, having problems. So I thought, and we had divorced at this point, my ex and I, only for about a few months. And I had visited Canada. And I saw my mom and I thought, my mom needs me. I'm the only daughter. It's just different with daughters, right? My brother's a good son, but it's just different with daughters. And I thought, what am I doing in Australia? I'm not married to an Australian anymore. What am I doing there? My mom needs me. So anyway, I packed up the kids and my ex, and I said to my ex-husband, I want to take the kids back to Canada. My mom needs me. And he said, over my dead body. And I said, well, that can probably be arranged, but I want you to come too. And I would never take kids away from their dad. He's a good dad. I would never do that. So he said, that's never going to happen. But 7 months later, we were all here. So my ex-husband included. He did the right thing. I moved for him 20 years before, and then he moved for me. And he loved my mom too. So, and we always got along. Like there was no animosity or anything. I always want to call it aminosity. But yeah, it's interesting. And the reason I'm pointing this out is my mom was my mentor. She was a joy-seeking missile. She could find the joy in anything. She was an amazing woman. She'd had a really tough life, grew up during the Depression. She was born in 1922. She just was the most positive, warm person and funny. Like everyone loved my mom. She was just fun and positive. And I remember when my dad died, I was 14, and I heard her in the other room. And this is my mom. It's so typical of my mother. I heard her in the other room. We knew he was dying, but still, when you hear it, it's like a shock, like they were just hit by a car. So I heard her cry and in the other room, and then she had to come in and tell me. It was noon on a Saturday, May 10th, 1975, and I was watching American Bandstand. I can still remember this. I was just frozen when I heard her cry. And then she comes in and she goes, he's gone. And then we cried for like 5 minutes. Now, this is my mom. She sat up after we cried for 5 minutes, and then she goes, weren't we lucky to have him for all those years? He just died. Like that was my mother. She was just the most positive person. Now, I feel very blessed having someone like that guiding me throughout life. I think I do tend to have more of a negative outlook on things, or I did. Anyway, she died 7 years ago. And it was like that just transferred over to me, that positivity. I'm not as good as she was, but I just always am, and I just get it. I just get it. I'm always searching for the joy in every situation. I'm very grateful for life. I'm very grateful for everything. And, but yeah, your parents are your mentors. You are your children's mentors. So are you guiding them in a way that you would be proud? You're not going to get everything perfect. That's not what this is about. But are you guiding them in a way that you want them to be? Because they're watching you. They're not listening to you. They're watching you. So it's, monkey see, monkey do. So yeah, my mother, and she died in my arms. It was just beautiful. It was just, if death is beautiful, that would have been it. But anyway. Yeah, when you're younger, you move to where you want to be. When you get older, you move to be with who you love. Love becomes the most important thing in your whole life when you get older. It just changes. It's funny how things just change. Okay. Okay. You asked about your 21-month-old sleeping problems. I have a bedtime battles course that's quite new. It's my latest course. Check it out in the link above. It goes through how to get them to bed and how to keep them there. Usually keeping them there is the hard part. So I'm just scrolling through because I was yabbering on. So if I missed your questions, sorry about that, but I just had to scroll because sometimes the people who asked earlier might have left. So, okay, inspirational story about you and your parents being mentors. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, you are your children's mentors. So think about that. It doesn't end when they're adults. It keeps going. Okay. Okay. I'm having a daughter this month, and I have a 21-month-old son. How do I show him how to be a gentle brother? Good luck with that. Yeah, you can't really do that. Okay. So once the baby's there, watch the baby like a hawk. I had a friend when our boys were about 2, and we used to get together. And both of our boys were very passive. Like a kid could be hitting them, they would never hit back. They just weren't that tight. And that's why they got along so well together. They were both very gentle. Anyway, this was not funny, but she had a new baby, and her little boy was 2. And when she turned her back, he took the newborn out of the crib and threw it on the floor. He was like, oh, I didn't know this thing was coming home. She was only like a week old, and she was okay, but we were shocked at that. You just watch your little one like a hawk. You can't really teach them how to be gentle. Like they might just do stuff. He never did it after that, and he never did anything like that again. So it was just a one-off. But yeah, you can't expect too much from a 21-month-old. So yeah, just watch them. Just do not leave that baby unattended. and with the 21-month-old nearby, just in case. But yeah, every time he goes to get rough, you just say no. I actually have a course on that, on toddlers who hit, etc. If you do start to see him getting aggressive, there's a course on that. But basically, it's just about using consistent corrective actions. You don't talk about what you want him to do so much as you just intervene with action, stopping him from what you don't want him to do. Did that make any sense? Yeah, I think it did. I won't try it again because I'm not sure. My 3-year-old is great with me, but with grandparents and aunts, she has tantrums. How do I redirect that energy? Um, Great with me. Okay. Are you a pleaser? Do you give in? Do you try to appease the 3-year-old and nobody else does? That's often what happens. They'll go off to preschool or something and they'll just be total terrors because no one's catering to them like you do. So that's my guess, is that you are a pleaser parent. You're catering to a 3-year-old and other people aren't. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. I don't know why else that would happen. I can't think of any other reason why that would happen. It doesn't mean I'm right. It just means I think I am. I could be wrong. I don't think so, though. So think about that. And I don't let people in on my lives. I only did it once. It was on TikTok, and I have a big audience over there. And they just started talking about their business, trying to use my audience to sell their stuff. I got rid of them so quick. Yeah, I don't do that. Learn my lesson. I'm drinking Diet Pepsi. If anyone's been following me on YouTube, on TikTok, I mean, you know that I was addicted to Diet Pepsi and Diet Coke. Doesn't matter to me which one. And then I got off it for 5 weeks. And then I thought, oh, it's my birthday. A few weeks ago, I had my 63rd birthday. And I thought, oh, I'll just have one. I'm right back into it again. Not quite as bad, but yeah, I'm just addicted to it because I don't drink coffee or tea, but I like caffeine. I can't tolerate it in coffee or tea. It gives me vertigo attacks. I literally drop to the ground if I have coffee. And it takes me 2 days to recover. It's really weird. But I can handle there's different types of caffeine. I can handle the caffeine in Diet Pepsi. Weird, isn't it? I would rather drink coffee, but I can't. I would love to. And decaf isn't caffeine free. It's just been decaffeinated. So yeah, it's very bad for you. That's my poison. I'm a gluten-free health food vegan, so I'm very healthy, but my Diet Pepsi is my poison. Gotta have something, I guess. Okay, so I'm just going to go through because most of you parents are parents of toddlers. So I'm just going to read. I like to go through some of my standard stuff. My top 5 tips for parenting toddlers is number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is get a toy rotation system going so they're never bored. Number 3 is you play with them in their world, not your world. You don't go to the nail salon with a 2-year-old to get close to them. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. That's a part of your leadership skills too. You're entering their world. They just start to look at you differently. Number 4 is when you're disciplining a toddler, it's consistent corrective action. It's not the mini therapy sessions discussing all their big feelings and big emotions. That was invented to feed the mom's needs. It has nothing to do with the toddler. It's just garbage. Anyway, I don't know why it's so popular. It doesn't work. But anyway, because it feeds the mom. So I do know why it's so popular. And then number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. It's not so much that they're crazy, which they are, but it's more that they just haven't developed sanity yet. They have no context to the world. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and for the first year, you were a potato laying on a mattress. So basically, they're just one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. So just go with it. They're cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. They're just forming. When my 3-year-old is angry, how do I help her work through her anger when she wants to throw things or hit? Well, you don't help her work through her anger. And why is a 3-year-old angry? Okay, I don't know what she's getting angry over, so I can't really comment. I could go in a million different directions. Anyway, check out my boot camp course. It goes into how to set yourself up as a leader, which calms their emotions down. They don't tend to get angry because they learn how to talk to you. When you're a good leader, they just come and talk to you. It's just the way it is. By about 3.5 to 4, especially. But yeah, work on your leadership skills. That course starts at 3. Perfect time for you to get going on that. Your advice has helped us with most out of anyone else's with their 5-year-old. It's all action-based, isn't it? I don't talk a lot about theory. When I get a lot of teachers, principals, and child psychologists as clients, not that they struggle more, but they're perfectionists. They want to get it right. And plus, you can't transfer those skills. I couldn't do their job. Parenting's different from all of their jobs. So they have a lot of qualifications, but parenting is just different. But anyway, they want to know the philosophy behind it. They want to know the psychology behind it. I love talking about that, but I'm not wasting your time on that. You just want to know what to do, right? But I know a lot of people say you should just nurture them and love them. Yeah, what does that mean? Do what? But do what? You want to know what you do, right? And that's what I focus. I'm solution-based here. I want to solve your problems. The philosophy, though, oh my God, I love it when I get a child psychologist for a client. They want to know all the psychology, and I love that. I know exactly what to say. I love all that stuff because I've been studying kids for like 52 years now. Okay. I have a 19-month-old who is so stubborn. He just stares at me when I say stuff and takes a long time to do it. For example, if he threw something and I told him to go pick it, and I don't get him to pick it up. No. Okay, 19-month-old is still, they're just a baby till they're about 16 months old, so he's still really little. They throw something, I say no, I go over, pick it up and put it where he can see it, but can't touch it. So, and then that's it. I don't discuss it. That's it. They eventually learn. It's consistent corrective actions. I don't get him to go over and pick it up. It's not a bad thing to do, but it's not effective. What's effective is you pick it up, say no, pick it up and put it where he can see it, but can't touch it, and then walk away. It's just an effective way to do it. I'm going to repeat what I said earlier when I first came on here. And then I'm going to move over to TikTok because I do half hour on each. But actually, I might just talk about it on TikTok because I already said it on here. It's just something that came up yesterday in a live. Anyway, if you want to follow me over to TikTok, I'm moving over there now. YouTube, I'm staying on here for the whole hour. I do a live every day, and I do half on TikTok and half on Instagram. Not necessarily in that order. It depends. Anyway, I'm moving over to TikTok if you want to join me. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining me. And thanks for supporting me here on Instagram. I hit 100,000 today. And I think I've been on here now for about 4 months. And so I'm just blown away by that. I really appreciate your support. It means a lot to me. Thanks so much. Anyway, I'll see you on TikTok. Sorry, YouTube. I'm just getting TikTok going here. There we go. Okay. Sorry, YouTube. Oh, Brianna asked, how many children do you have on YouTube? So I'm just answering YouTube here. How many children do I have? I have 2 kids. My son just turned 34, and my daughter will be 29 in 2 weeks. So, and I'm 63. And, but yeah, they're all grown. And my first grandchild, little girl, is due in about 5 weeks. So I'm very excited about that. I'm not as excited about being a grandmother. Yeah, it's great. But what I'm excited about is seeing my son hold his daughter. That I don't know why. That'll really get me going. To see my son hold his new baby girl, that will be exciting. That's what I'm most excited about. Interesting, eh? Yeah, I'm holding it too, but I don't think grandparenting is nearly as good as parenting because you have to hand them back. Like, I love parenting. I didn't want to hand my kid. I had no family around or anything. I just had, myself. I mean, it was myself and my husband. We had no family around or anything. I loved it. I didn't have to share my kids with anyone. I just loved it. But yeah, it won't be my kid. It'll be my grandkid. So if the parents want it, I guess I have to hand it back. So anyway, okay. How to work on your leadership skills to be a good parent? Well, that's all I teach here. So that's a big question because it would take me hours. Anyway, I have a full course on that if you're interested. It's my Bratbusters boot camp. It's in the link above. Everything's in the link above that I have to offer, and that teaches you leadership skills. It's all about being a leader. A leader brings out the best in kids. That's what you're doing. You're bringing out the best in them. You do not want obedient little soldiers. You want children to have a voice too. Believe me, if my kids didn't like something, they'd say, "Excuse me, Mom, I don't really know if I think that's fair." And I'd say, "Really? Why?" And they'd say, "Because of this." I said, "Yeah, you're right. Okay." Like it was that easy. but it was very mutually respective. So you're not the authority style parent. That's the old fashioned way. Not a bad way to parent. They tend to resent you in the teen years, especially, and they can rebel, but they come out the other end just fine and they appreciate what you did for them. A leader, there's no rebellion. My son was 15 and he said, he wanted to rebel. And he says, I can't even rebel. He says, you're too reasonable and easy to talk to. Sorry. Anyway, then I said, go clean your room. And he never did. Rebellion taken care of. Anyway, yesterday, something interesting came up and it was right up my alley. I love stuff like this. And I know I had to sort of edit myself from what I wanted to say, but I still let it fly. So this mom, I think a mom on here said, my 3-year-old's out of control or something. I said, okay, so all you do, you work on your leadership skills, you lead, they will follow. Because whatever, I said something like that. And then I go on to the next question. Then she came back again and I had to check to make sure it was the same mom. She had said, so you're saying it's my fault? And God, I had a hard time not going like this. Yeah, it's your fault. That's what a leader does. A leader takes accountability. They take responsibility for their kids' actions. She wanted to blame her kid. So I said, so you'd rather blame your kid than yourself? That's not a leader. That's there. Who do you love more? Obviously yourself. Like I really went after her. Like I thought that was the most ridiculous thing. You're saying it's my fault? Yeah. Imagine blaming your kids rather than blaming yourself. Like if my kids ever did anything, or when I was working with kids even, I used to mentor troubled teens. If they acted out when they were with me, this is what I would do. I'd go, what am I missing here? Because I took the blame. I saw them. They were violent, delinquent teenagers. I saw them for 1 hour a week, and I took the blame for them. So that's what a leader does. A leader takes the blame. They take the responsibility. So, which is good news, because if their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting, and that's good news. That means you can control it, but you got to own it first. You have to own that. I went all over. I'm sure that parent will just be bad mouthing me all over town. That's just fine with me. But yeah, I went all over that one. That got me all fired up. And it was funny because my daughter doesn't usually listen to my lives, but she listened to it this morning. She heard it on YouTube and she heard that part and she'd laugh. She goes, oh, you would have loved that. I said, yeah, I did. Yeah. Anyway, I have no tact. I don't care. Okay. You have such a refreshing view on parenting. I appreciate you so much. I have no tact. What you see is what you get. I have no filter. So thank God I'm a decent person. I'm not thinking all these horrible thoughts because they would just come flying out if I had them. So yeah, I just let it fly. It's the only way. And that's how you learn. You learn through someone just being really open and honest about all this stuff, because parenting's messy. Life is messy. It's not about perfection. It's about doing a pretty good job. But one thing I'm really good at is being a leader for kids. I know how to get respect because I know how to give it. You got to give it to get it. You got to work for it. You got to earn it. But it's worth it. Once you've got, getting respect is hard work. Once you've got it, maintaining it is a piece of cake right through the teen years. All I'm doing, I specialize in teenagers. So all I'm doing is I'm trying to get you there safe and sound so you can sail through the teen years like I did. I'm always working backwards. Never take advice from someone who hasn't finished the job. If all they have is little kids, how the heck do they know where they're going? It's like taking financial advice from someone with $10 in the bank. You have to take advice from someone who's finished the job with their own kids, because they actually know what it's like to live with teenagers. And also they have to have experience with hundreds of other kids too. So they've dealt with everything. But yeah, it's all experience-based. What's your education? Just experience. Kids taught me all this. I started volunteering in daycare centers 52 years ago. I was 11 years old. And even then, the daycare ladies kept asking me, how do you do that? The kids respect you so much and they like you. They want to be with you. I didn't know how to answer that. I was a leader. I knew how to lead kids. I just always did. I just always, I don't know, it just came easy to me. So that's what I teach. And then I, of course, worked in hospitals, detention centers, psych wards with depressed teenagers. Hundreds of schools. Oh, geez. Anyways, I've worked in homes. I got government clearance to go into homes and support parents also. So I've been doing this for 52 years. And I've been doing my business for 17 years, Bratbusters. But yeah, it's experience-based. That's why so many of my clients are teachers, principals, and child psychologists. Not that they're struggling more than other people, but they identify that, yes, parenting is a specialty, and you want to go to someone who has very heavily experience-based with all this stuff. Parenting is personal. I couldn't do their jobs, and they struggle with parenting, so that they know to go to someone who just has that expertise. There's no PhD in parenting. If there was, I would have taken it. I would have done it. I've already done it. If you can get respect from troubled teens. I've never been hired by a youth worker. They deal with troubled teenagers. I've never been hired by a youth worker. If you can get respect from troubled teens, you don't need my help. You've worked in all those places without education. Yeah, it was all volunteering. It's all volunteer. I would never have been paid for that. I was learning, and I had skills. And you have to get police clearance and some training. Yeah, I had to get some training, but I never used any of it. I had my own style. Yeah, I never used any of it. It was more the authority style stuff that they were teaching, and I don't do that. So, yeah. I got a lot of clearance, though. And then once you're in, then they see you've got some skills, and then they branch you out into other things. So, yeah, it was just my thing. There's actually PhDs in child and youth work. Yeah, in youth work, not parenting. That's different. Work, home, personal, business, institutions, home. That's my whole point. They're different. Okay, let's get going. My 3-year-old girl is scratching my birthmarks to calm down, and I don't know how to replace her behavior. Oh, so she's got some repetitive behavior. Scratching your birthmarks to calm. I don't quite understand that. Where are they? Somewhere you can cover up? I don't know. I don't understand that. Okay. 15-month-old is starting to scream when upset. Best way to help stop this. That's in the tantrum department. You kind of deal with them the same way. You just ignore it. It's in the crazy department. Screaming, whining, tantruming, they're all kind of the same thing. There's stuff that you just want to kind of ignore. You ignore the crazy and then reward the calm. Once they stop, then you're, oh, do you want to read a book? Then you reward. Attention is reward. Attention is feeding that stuff. Okay, 5 and 2-year-old fight constantly. 2-year-old starts at, I haven't got a great answer for that without coaching. I get to know your family dynamics and I get more creative with this, but generally just separate them. You take the older one out first. Can't get along, you come with me for 10 minutes. It's not time out because they're with you. And when they are with you, you're just talking to them while you're doing the dishes or something. You're not discussing the fighting. Don't discuss it. There's no point. None. So as many therapy sessions, they're useless. Anyway, so you just take action. You say, okay, can't get along, you come with me for 10 minutes. Next time you take the 2-year-old out, go back and forth, back and forth. The idea is that they'll get so sick of this yo-yoing that they'll either whisper fight or separate or get along. That's the idea. Who cares if they whisper fight? What do you do about a 7th grader who has all Fs and doesn't try at school? You'd have to hire me for that. I don't know what's going on. I have no context around that. I don't know what kind of parent you are, what the history is, what other problems they might have, what they're like socially, blah, blah, blah. If they're on machines a lot, if they're on, a lot of WhatsApp or whatever they're using, I need to know stuff. So I'd have to assess the situation before I could give you any advice on that. So if you want to hire me, check out the link above. Everything's in there. I'm going to hire you. Okay, well, you just go on there and hire me. Okay. And by the way, if you go on the link above, you have the free behavior board that starts at the age of 3. And then you have my toddler courses. Then you have my big boot camp course. And the next level up is coaching. I suggest you start with the free behavior board if you've got a 3-year-old and over. Toddlers, I have the mini courses. If you've got a whole bunch of stuff with toddlers and the courses don't cover it, you hire me for that. And teenagers is all done on coaching. One day I might have a teen course, but the thing is, people don't hire me for general parenting with teenagers. They hire me with crisis work or really struggling with their teenagers. How on earth do I make a course out of that? Do you know how many different problems there are with parenting teenagers? How on earth would I turn that into a course? Yeah, I haven't figured out how to do that yet. Not where I feel comfortable that I know I'm helping people, because there's just too many different. Maybe I should make it like toddlers. If you're dealing with sexually promiscuous teenagers, that would be a course. Oh, yeah, that might be a good way to do it, because that's how I do toddlers. They're all little mini niche courses. 3 to 12-year-olds, that's more general. You're heavily in leadership mode. But yeah. Oh, okay. I just answered my own question. That's a good idea. Toddler and teen courses, mini courses. Just a sec. Mini teen courses. Oh. Light bulb. Did you see that go off? Because I get asked that all the time. I specialize in teenagers, but I don't have a course on them. I have no courses on them. But I could do the mini courses. I'm going to have to think about that. Okay. Why do I like teenagers so much? No one's asked me that except I asked myself that. You know, I'm gonna tell you why it's so important. Why why do you need to know why I like teenagers so much? Why is that important to hear why? Because when you learn how to parent teenagers, you can just relax and enjoy and watch them turn into adults. It is fascinating. It is just, it's my favorite age. I loved watching my kids turn into adults. It was like, just watching the show because we had mutual respect. I had no problems with them. Anyway, I'm going to read out my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. It's a skill. It's definitely. But this is my top 3 tips. Okay. You listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. By the way, they already know it. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? Negotiate pretty much everything. Give and take, give and take. It's more gives and take, by the way. And then number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. Allow them to make all those small mistakes. If they do, I would have said something like this. Well, this was stupid. I can't believe what you just did. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. We all made them. Okay. So don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff because you're going to need it. If you do get big stuff, you're going to need it. So that's my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. So what my whole point in telling you why that's so important is it's doable. Anyone can learn this. I'll tell you really my favorite story this year with teenagers. Oh, I've got so many of them, but this one was so cute. This mom they had bought their son, the 16-year-old boy, a car. And because he had a lot of like sports and that, and they didn't have time to drive him around all the time because they're working in that. So they bought him a car, but he didn't have his license yet. The mom and the son were like this. They'd always fought. They never got along. Like from day one, they were, I think she said we're just too much alike, which maybe whatever. I don't know. I don't really get that. But anyway, so I said, well, just change what you're like then. So anyways, they never got along. So, and the worst they ever fought was in the car. Every single night she took him out for a driving lesson and they fought like cat and dog. They just about killed each other every single night. So I said, here's what you do. You put on the behavior board, no yelling. Your rule is no yelling. When you yell, your consequence is you cannot speak during the next driving lesson unless it's look out for that bus, right? Life and death stuff. So she goes, well, I can't do that. And I said, yeah, that's what you have to do. She goes, no, it's not going to work. And I said, that's what you have to do. And it just became a standoff between her and I. And she goes, is it that important? And I said, you'll see. Yeah, it is. So anyway, then she yelled. And then that night she wasn't allowed to speak during the driving lesson. And she knew she wouldn't be able to not talk. So she put masking tape or painter's tape or something on her mouth. I don't know what. Anyway, she put some tape on her mouth and he didn't see this. They're getting in the car because they never look at each other. All they do is fight. So anyway, they're both getting in the car. She sees herself in the side view mirror as she's getting in the car and she sees the tape. She starts to laugh. And the bottom of it flaps away, like her laughter, it just starts flapping as she's laughing. And then he sees this and they start laughing. She goes, it was the most fun they ever had together, was just this humor. And I said, there you go. That's why you had to do it. Because I knew it was going to be funny. I knew he was going to love it. And I knew he'd respect the fact that she was actually following through. So that's what teenagers are like. You have to give respect to get it. But anyway, I thought that was just adorable. And then we worked on a whole bunch of other stuff and their relationship just blossomed after that. But a lot of parents do that. That's one of my favorite consequences with teenagers. Three-year-old yells all the time with an attitude. I'm at my wit's end. Three-year-old yells all the time with attitude. I'm at my wit's end. Well, check out the boot camp course. It just means you're not a leader. When you're a leader, they just don't have an attitude. There's no point. They, especially by the age of 3.5 to 4, they only do what works. She's heading into that now. Okay. So work on your leadership skills. And that just doesn't happen. She has an attitude and she yells because it gets on your nerves. You're showing weakness. You're showing fear. When you show fear and weakness, it's all over. They're in charge and they know it. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. Just use my behavior board. That's completely free. Start there anyway. And then if you're like that, maybe look at the boot camp course. If you want the next level up, you want one-on-one. A lot of people just want that personal touch. They want to talk because they have other problems going on and stuff. So that's coaching. I love it when people hire me and then they say, well, I'm embarrassed to tell you what's going on. It's just, I'm sure you've never heard of it before. It's very rare that I haven't heard of it before. But yeah, only once in the last few years, something came up that I'd never heard of before. And it was interesting. It was really interesting. I would love to be able to talk about it. Of course I can't. But yeah, working with the parents on that one was just, It was great. Really exercised my skills, I'll tell you. It was good. It was really good. But it's very rare that happens. Yeah, that was a good one. I would love to get something like that every year because usually stuff is just, I know it like the back of my hand. That one I said, I've never heard of this before. Let me think here. And I had to think, like it was great. Okay. Is that written somewhere? Is what written somewhere? Is what written somewhere? It might be. I don't know. I've done a lot of videos on pretty much everything I talk about. Okay. It's Camp Campbell. If you could tell me, is that written somewhere? I could answer that. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to talking about sharing, and I don't know why I keep forgetting about this because we talk a lot about can you teach a 2-year-old to share? That comes up a lot because most of you on here have toddlers. I specialize in teenagers, but most of you have toddlers, so that seems to be what comes up all the time. I was just on Instagram doing the live, and they said, "How come you're always talking about toddlers?" That's all the questions I get. They said, "Do you know anything about 12-year-olds?" Yeah, I do. I do. That teenagers, and that's my favorite age. But anyway, this story is how you teach your kids to share, and it's just this might come up if you've got kids. It might come up, but it's one of my favorite stories, and it's one that I've used. I didn't do it with my kids, but anyway. So this is how you. Sorry, I got my chair leg is hitting the desk. Anyway, so this is how you teach kids to share as an example of this. And let's say they're 3 years old, 3 and 5 years old, whatever. And there's one swing and you've got 2 kids and you're at the park. This is what I would do. I would say, okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Each kid, you have to sort of be organized. You have to see it coming and be ready for it. Say, okay, so what we're going to do is each swing is going to be 2 minutes long. Each turn is going to be 2 minutes long. We're going to flip a coin to see who goes first, or guess numbers, whatever you want to do, to see who goes first. And they only get 1 minute. So you get to go first, but you only get half of that turn. So anyway, that's a really good way to teach kids. And what ends up happening is you have a timer. Always look official. You've got timer. Watches are one of your best friends, like timers, especially put an alarm on. So say, okay, you get to go first. Go on there. 1 minute. And then you get the other kid to look at the watch. Okay, you got 30 more seconds. Beep, beep, beep. And then, okay, now it's your turn, back and forth. They get tired of that, and one kid wanders off and does something else. But it's teaching them how to share because it's an organized system. I'm very into justice and being fair. I'll tell you a funny story. I'm telling stories today. But anyway, this was a really funny story about me. I was very proud little child. Like my daughter's the same way. We don't like getting in trouble at all. We hate it. So I was 3 years old, and I went to preschool, or whatever you call it. And I could still remember this. And at the end of preschool, the teacher talked to my mother. When I was there, I could hear it. And she was saying, "Can you please tell Lisa that I'm in charge and she's not?" You know what was happening? I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was 3 years old. What was happening was there was a slide, and all the kids were pushing and shoving to get there, but the teacher wasn't taking control. So I went over and I said, I didn't even get a turn, but it was driving me nuts that they were not being fair. Like there was no justice going on. It was no organization, no systems. So I said, "No, you go behind him. Now you go behind him, and then you take your turn. And then I was organized, and they were listening to me." So that's what the teacher didn't like, the fact that the kids were listening to me. I was 3 years old, but I had them all organized because I wanted them all to have a turn. I never even got a turn, but I'd organized that whole system. So I was born to do this, and that's what I just was. I like fairness and justice, and so do kids. If they know you're organized and you're fair and you're reasonable, like my son said, he was 15. He says, "I could never rebel because you're too reasonable and easy to talk to." They just, what have they got to rebel against? What have they got to argue? You're fair and reasonable. They're never going to argue with you. Laugh out loud. She should have done it. Who should have done what? I lose track of what I've said and what people are commenting on. How do you manage a 3-year-old who always says no? You don't fix kids here. You're fixing yourself. Set yourself up as a leader. They don't say no to you. Once you're a leader, they don't say no. Why would they? They just don't. So work on your leader. That's just a tell. It just means that they don't respect you. So work on your leadership skills. That's all I teach her. Start with the behavior board. If you want more, go to the boot camp course. If you want even more, go to coaching with me. That's all done 1 hour per week on Zoom, approximately. Okay. I get questions like this all the time, and I never quite know what to say to this. My 19-month-old throws her toothbrush. Also, she's splashing water. Yeah, they're toddlers. They're just going to try stuff. You just physically restrain them. If she's splashing like crazy or throwing, you just hold the hand and say no, and then you brush her teeth. Or if she's splashing, you hold her hands and say no. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to work the first time. Toddlers are just going to do stuff. They're just learning. They don't have any control over stuff. They work off of impulses. Okay. Oh, a few people have said the live is freezing a lot. It shouldn't be on my end because I haven't had any glitches, but it could be. But I haven't seen, if that happens, usually I see a glitch, but I haven't seen any. My 11-year-old always talks back, work on your leadership skills. That would not happen. The only time my kids ever did anything like that, and I can remember it really well, my son's 5 years older. He was 5 years old. He'd just been to a friend's house. And I never got back talk with my kids because I was a leader, right? Their dad was more inclined to get it. But then he learned to say, do you want me to tell mom? And then they were right in line because you only need one leader in the house. But the pleaser parent, the one who doesn't lead, they have to know how to get on board and back up the leader and threaten, use the leader as leverage. And that's what my ex-husband did. So it worked beautifully. We were on the same team. The kids picked up on that. And anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, talking back. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. My son was 5 years old and he'd just been at a friend's house and he would have heard this there. There would have been some reward for saying this over there. He thought he'd give it a go with me. He comes home and he goes, I'm bored, in that snotty tone. Like he'd never spoken to me like that before, in that real whiny, snotty, demanding, I'm bored. Like, entertain me in the real snotty tone. So as soon as he said that, I went like this. And he went, never mind, I'm not bored. And I said, oh, is my precious angel bored? My little angel? No, I'm not bored. No, I was just kidding. Just kidding. I said, come with mommy. So I took him in the laundry room, filled up a bucket and gave him a mop. He was never bored again. So yeah, just take charge of this stuff. When you get good at this, they just would never talk back. Why would they? There's no reason to. No reason to. And they had a voice, believe me. If my kids didn't like something, they would tell me. But they were always respectful about it. If they talked in that snotty, whiny tone of voice, didn't work. But they would often say, mom, I don't think it's fair when you expect this or that. And I'd say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, you're right. Okay, let's not do that anymore. So it was a very mutually respectful relationship. And they never asked me for anything if they knew the answer would be no. Never happened. They would never ask for something if they knew the answer was no. Why would they? Because I was 100% predictable. What tips do you have for a parent to learn leadership and patience? Just keep watching. And my behavior board teaches you how to start disciplining and how to be accountable. Leaders are accountable because you're setting an example. You're not just telling your kids what to do. That's that old-fashioned authority style parenting. You're not just you don't want obedient little soldiers here. You want kids who make good choices on their own. And that's what leaders do. They bring out the best in kids. I used to say to my kids all the time, if your good life is good, if your bad life ain't so good, I'll make sure of it because I'm your mom and that's my job. So, and I used to say, everything's your choice. So they knew if they did something wrong, they would go, oh, drats, I did that. How about no TV tonight? And I'd say, that's too much. Just brush my hair for 5 minutes. I love doing it. They hated doing it. I loved having it done, but they hated doing it. So that would be their discipline, to brush my hair. So yeah, there's none of this when you're a good leader. There just isn't. You work together with your kids right through the teen years. Like my kids, I never had curfews or anything with teenagers. Doesn't mean they were out all night. I have a system around that, but I never had curfews or anything. I never had a hard line with teenagers or even kids. Like I never told them what to do. They just knew right from wrong and they made good choices because they'd have to answer to me if they didn't. So anyway, check out the behavior board if they're 3 years old, it starts, and the course, boot camp course starts at 3 also. Okay, this is a question that comes up a lot in coaching because I'll often get a couple in coaching and one's like this and one's like this. So it's like, gee, I wonder which one wanted to hire me. So here's what I do with them. I say, okay, I can see you're not on board because I watch body language. I'm obsessed with body language. That's why I have to have video when I'm coaching because I'm watching them. And I say, obviously you're not on board with this. I respect that. So here's what we're going to do. You make an agreement where you follow these methods with whoever wanted to hire me, follow them for 3 weeks. If it doesn't work, it's your way. And not once have I ever heard it turning around. Not once, not ever in 17 years. So yeah, once they see that the other parent, and oh, this is funny, but oftentimes one parent doesn't even want to be involved and they just tell the other parent, you just do it. I don't want anything to do with it. So I say, fine, I don't want them in the room even. I don't want them hearing me, nothing. So if they don't want to be on board, just leave them out of it. You know what ends up happening? More times than you would think. That once that other parent sees the respect that the one working with me gets and the fun, because the leader is also the fun, goofy parent too. That's my goal, is I want you to have fun with your kids. The other parent has often hired me on the side behind that parent's back to teach them how to do it, but they're too proud to admit that they've hired me. So that's happened quite often. So yeah, it's always a good one. And I have to be really careful what I'm saying to the other one, because sometimes like I'll find out something's happened, but I can't let on that I know. Anyway, it's fun. Okay. Okay. I've got to get going. I've been on here for an hour now. I do TikTok and Instagram 30 minutes each, and YouTube, the whole hour is on YouTube. That's where all these lives are saved. Once they're on, once I do a live on TikTok or Instagram, they disappear afterwards, so they're gone. But they're all saved on YouTube if you're interested. Anyway, so thanks so much for joining me. Go on the link above. You can see the free behavior board, the mini toddler courses, the big boot camp course for 3 to 12-year-olds, and one-on-one coaching with me. It's all done on Zoom, 1 hour per week usually, if you're interested. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow, and then check out the regularly scheduled lives if you want to join in. Those are I only have 2 lives every week that are regularly scheduled. Otherwise, I just turn up like I did today whenever I've got time. Thanks so much and have a great weekend. Bye now.